Hana Kobayashi was born on December 24, 1993 in Hawaii, an archipelago in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and one of the 50 states of the United States. She is the daughter of Ryan and Brandy, who, in addition to Hana, have a younger daughter named Sydney. Hana was described as a lovely person who loved nature and had a passion for art. From a very young age, she was always drawn to anything related to art. She frequently painted, something that became almost a habit for her. After finishing high school, Hana worked at various places, and as she entered adulthood, she became an aspiring photographer. Hana had a small journal in which she used to write about the events of her daily life. She also made some drawings in this journal. Hana enjoyed music and dancing, and one of her plans was to become a DJ. She had even chosen a DJ name, Lil Trees. She bought some equipment, but I couldn't find any information on whether she ever performed as a DJ. Hana participated in some support groups for women. She volunteered in these groups, which aimed to help women in vulnerable situations. Close friends of Hana mentioned that she hoped to find someone special to start a family with someday. She really wanted to become a mother. On November 8, 2024, at 30 years old, Hana boarded a flight from Maui, where she lived, to Los Angeles, California. She planned to catch another flight in Los Angeles, with New York City as her destination. According to sources, the reason for this trip was work-related, as Hana had made an agreement with a DJ to take photos for free at an event he was promoting in exchange for a ticket to attend the event. Then, she would deliver the high-quality photos to the DJ so that he could use them on his social media. Hana would also take the opportunity to visit her maternal aunt, a woman named Laurie, with whom she had been very close since childhood. According to sources close to her, Hana had just ended a relationship with a man who also lived in Hawaii. They had even planned this trip together and had purchased the tickets together. Due to this, even after the breakup, they decided to go ahead with the trip, as they couldn't get a refund for the already purchased tickets. However, since the atmosphere between them was still a bit tense, they flew on the same plane but separately. They didn't sit near each other, as they were able to switch seats. They didn't talk to each other, and by mutual agreement, they decided that once the plane landed, they would go their separate ways. And so it happened. The plane arrived in Los Angeles at 9:53 p.m. Hana missed her connecting flight to New York and decided to stay the night in Los Angeles to try catching another flight to her destination the following day. Security camera footage from the airport captured the moment Hana disembarked from the plane. Hana's ex-boyfriend managed to catch the flight to New York without any problems. The next day, November 9th, Hana visited a shopping center located in the heart of Los Angeles. She was also seen in a bookstore around noon. There, she spent a few hours charging her phone, and according to some sources, she sent a photo to her aunt to show a bit of the place where she was. She also mentioned that she was doing a bit of sightseeing in the city. On that same day, she made some transactions to two people through an app. The first payment was at 6:25 p.m. to a woman named Veronica Almendarez, who was identified in Hana's phone records with an emoji of a bow and arrow. The second payment was at 7:19 p.m. to a man named Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan was identified with the word reading, which some later interpreted as a payment for a tarot reading. On November 10th, a Sunday, Hana returned to the same shopping center she had visited the day before. This time, she attended an event called LeBron 22 at a store where the public could try on new shoes bearing the player's name. She was seen in a video recorded by someone else and posted on their social media. Later, she took a photo at the location herself and shared it on her own social media. The next day, November 11th, was the last day Hana's family and friends had contact with her. After that, she mysteriously disappeared, leaving everyone very concerned. Hana had sent a message to her mother saying she hadn't yet arrived in New York. She also wrote some strange messages about a spiritual awakening. Hana even apologized for anything bad she might have done. This raised concerns for the family, as they stated these words didn't seem like something Hana would write, as she didn't usually communicate that way. The family tried to reach out to Hana several times. They called and sent messages but received no replies. Later, Hana's phone was turned off, and after that, they could no longer contact her. In addition to her family, Hana also sent messages to some of her friends saying she didn't feel safe. She said that some hackers had stolen her identity and that she was mentally confused. Then she claimed she had been deceived by someone who stole all her money, and finally she concluded by saying that everything she went through was because of someone she thought she loved. These messages made Hannah's family and friends even more worried. They reiterated that the messages didn't seem like they were written by her. During an interview, Hannah's sister stated that the family was considering several possibilities regarding these messages. Among these possibilities, the family believed someone was using Hannah's phone and pretending to be her, or that she had been kidnapped and was being forced to write these messages. Any of these possibilities left the family in total despair. Hannah's disappearance was officially reported to the authorities, while the family continued to try to contact her, but with no success. The authorities quickly began an investigation, and the FBI took over the case. During the investigation, authorities checked the security cameras of a subway station in downtown Los Angeles where Hannah had been. In the footage, it was revealed that on November 11th, the day she disappeared, Hannah was accompanied by a man whose identity was previously unknown. The authorities showed the video to Hannah's family, and they confirmed that they had never seen that man before. The family also mentioned that in the video, Hannah appeared to be under the influence of some substance, as her behavior seemed abnormal. It was also discovered that initially, Hannah had checked in her luggage for New York, but later requested it to be returned to Los Angeles Airport. Hannah's ex-boyfriend was interrogated by the authorities since, although they hadn't talked, they traveled together, making it likely he knew something. However, the man didn't know anything and was quickly ruled out as a suspect by the authorities, as while Hannah was in Los Angeles, he was already in New York. Hannah Kobayashi's disappearance was widely covered and reported by the media. Within just a few days, it became one of the most talked about cases in the United States. All the circumstances surrounding Hannah's disappearance were very confusing, making everything extremely mysterious. On November 15th, the authorities published a missing person poster, which included Hannah's photo, some information about her, and details about where she had been last seen. Ryan, Hannah's father, traveled to Los Angeles to join the police in the search for his daughter. He also joined a group of volunteers who had been actively searching for several days. Ryan visited the places where Hannah was last seen and spoke to various people to gather as much information as possible about his daughter's disappearance. He also gave several interviews to newspapers covering the case and asked anyone with information about his daughter's whereabouts to communicate it to the family or authorities. In one of the interviews, Ryan mentioned that although he hadn't been very present in Hannah's life while she was growing up, he wanted to make things right and do better when he found her. Later, the family launched a fundraising campaign to support a possible parallel investigation and to cover travel, lodging, and meal expenses when everyone needed to go to Los Angeles. The amount needed for this was substantial, and the family couldn't afford it all on their own. Due to the widespread attention the case received and the solidarity of the people following it, the family was able to raise a significant amount. However, on November 24th, something tragic and unexpected happened. Ryan, Hannah's father, then 58 years old, was found dead around 4 a.m. in a parking lot near Los Angeles Airport. Initially, the authorities issued a statement to the public saying that the cause of death was due to multiple injuries on his body, without specifying further details. Later, a new statement was issued to the public, declaring that Ryan had taken his own life by jumping from the 7th floor of the building where he was staying. The official version states that Ryan was deeply depressed over the disappearance of his daughter and, unable to cope with the anguish of not knowing what happened to her, decided to take his own life. Ryan's body was sent to Hawaii, and the search for Hannah continued. The family, along with close friends of Hannah, organized searches in different parts of Los Angeles. They spoke with hundreds of people, but no one had seen anything. The people of Hawaii, where Hannah was originally from, were also very supportive. They helped share all available information about the case so that more people could be aware of the disappearance. A few days later, the police chief of Los Angeles stated during a press conference that Hannah had missed her flight to New York on purpose. He said they still didn't know the real reasons behind it, but the police ruled out the possibility that Hannah had been a victim of any type of violence. For them, Hannah did everything of her own accord and was not forced by anyone. However, Hannah's family disagreed with these statements. They made a post on social media stating that they didn't believe Hannah had missed the flight intentionally. On December 1st, the authorities went to the California-Mexico border to review some footage from cameras installed at the checkpoint. There was suspicion that Hannah had crossed the U.S.-Mexico border. This suspicion was confirmed after the authorities saw Hannah crossing the border on November 12th at 12:13 a.m. This occurred one day after the family reported her missing. In the footage, Hannah can be seen walking calmly while carrying her luggage. She was alone and showed no signs of being in danger.
We reviewed video surveillance from U.S. Customs and Border Protection, which clearly shows Kobayashi crossing the United States border on foot into Mexico. She was alone with her luggage and appeared unharmed.
The next day, on December 2nd, the Los Angeles police chief announced that Hannah Kobayashi had been classified as a voluntarily missing person and stated that the investigation would no longer continue. The police chief also said that there was no evidence that Hannah was doing anything against her will, and that the right thing to do was to respect her privacy. The family once again disagreed with this statement and said that the authorities were not making any effort to find her. As a result, the family decided to hire a private investigator to conduct a parallel investigation. They were convinced that Hannah was being held somewhere against her will by someone they didn't know. However, after the investigation, the private detective hired by the family found the same conclusion as the California authorities. Hannah had disappeared by her own choice. The private detective told the family that, in fact, there was no evidence to prove that Hannah was under someone else's control or that she had been the victim of a crime. This reinforced that Hannah Kobayashi's disappearance was intentional. On December 3rd, Hannah's family made a statement on social media saying they would not abandon the search. They said they were hopeful that Hannah was safe and would do everything they could to bring her back home. The following day, a representative from the Baja California State Special Enforcement Unit announced that despite being alerted about Hannah's disappearance, they had not yet received any official request from the United States to begin a search. The representative also said that, up to that point, the family had not contacted Mexican authorities. Regarding the video showing Hannah crossing the border, he said that in the area of the border he was responsible for, there was no footage of Hannah, and it was likely that she crossed through another point. Later, Hannah's family decided to end the fundraising campaign they had created. They did not think it was right to continue asking people for money, even though many people were willing to help them. They were also quite frustrated with the statements made by the Los Angeles authorities. The mystery of Hannah's whereabouts continued, and at the same time, new information about the case emerged. According to sources, Hannah is suspected of being involved in a marriage fraud scheme with the intention of helping an Argentine man obtain a green card. This Argentine man was identified as Alan Cacase, and it was discovered that the entire scheme had been planned by Hannah's ex-boyfriend, the same man who traveled with her to Los Angeles and then went to New York. It was also discovered that Alan was on the flight from Hawaii to Los Angeles, the same flight Hannah and her ex-boyfriend were on. Furthermore, Alan was in a serious relationship with a woman named Mariana, who was also on the flight and went to New York on the same flight as Hannah's ex-boyfriend. All of these discoveries were only made possible after Hannah's mother found documents at her daughter's house in Hawaii, including immigration paperwork and contacts with an immigration lawyer, which were later handed over to the FBI and the Los Angeles Police Department for investigation. The family hired an immigration lawyer to check the documents and determine what they were really about. The family also issued a statement asking people following the case not to make hasty conclusions about Hannah. They said that the best course of action was to wait until Hannah was found so that all the facts could be clarified. On December 11th, the Los Angeles Police Department announced that Hannah Kobayashi had been found safe and sound in Mexico. On December 15th, Hannah crossed the Mexico-U.S. border and presented herself to U.S. Customs and Border Protection. In a statement, Hannah's family said they were very happy and relieved. They reunited with Hannah and said that the reunion was incredibly emotional. They also thanked everyone who cared and supported them. In a statement, Hannah said that she wasn't aware of the media coverage surrounding her disappearance and didn't know that her father had taken his own life. She mentioned that her focus now is on healing, finding peace, and continuing with her creativity. She also expressed deep gratitude to her family and everyone who showed kindness and compassion during this period. She concluded by saying that she needed time to process everything and asked people to respect her and her family's privacy. Hannah didn't explain the reason for her disappearance in such a manner, which left everyone worried and caused authorities to spend time and resources searching for her. As of the recording of this video, I haven't found any place where she apologized or expressed regret for what happened to her father.